Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Thank y'all so much for tuning back in. I know it's been a while since I've been on YouTube, but I'm back and I'm back with another story time. So in this story time, I'm gonna be talking about, this is one of my worst jobs ever because I've had multiple experiences, but we finna get into this story time. So this was back, I was 17 years old. This is back when I was working at Burger King. I just turned 17 years old. So this particular Burger King that I worked at, it wasn't just a regular Burger King, it was inside of a Walmart. So I believe it was May of 2016 because I graduated high school in 2017. It was May 2016 when I started working at Burger King. I started working there. I can't exactly remember. I'm pretty sure I was just job hunting. I know I was job hunting, applying for a bunch of jobs. Y'all know when you in high school, it's so hard to find a job because nobody really wants to work around somebody's schedule that's in high school. So I was job hunting, and so I come to find out that one of the girls that I went to school with, she actually worked at that particular Burger King. And then later on, I found out some more of my schoolmates and some more of my classmates worked in that same Burger King. So fast forward, so when I first went there, they had a different manager than the manager that I ended up working with. So I applied. They did the interview and everything. So the first manager that I spoke to, he was real nice. He was real cool, laid back and everything. You know, he was just asking me little questions about myself and everything. And I told him, like, you know, I'm still in school, I'm still in high school and stuff like that. And I do remember the time that he interviewed me, that following weekend was prom. So I told him, I'm like, hey, prom is coming up. I'm not going to be able to work next weekend. And he was just like, okay, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? We can work something out or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. But come to find out, I had to do a second interview because by the time I started working, I was working with a different manager because the first manager that I did an interview with, I believe he ended up moving to another store, just getting another job. But I think he ended up moving to another store. So I had to do a second interview. Okay. So to sum everything up, one of the girls that I went to school with, she pretty much did help me get the job or whatever. So shout out to you. So fast forward to the second interview. I speak to the I hear everybody saying, we get in a new gym or whatever. I fast forward to the interview. I can't remember every single detail because again, I was 17 at the time. So go to the interview and he's like, okay, come at such and such time, be here at such and such time. Okay, so I get there. I always get to a job interview early. So I get there and I see that they busy because obviously this is right around the summertime. This is right when the summertime is finna get ready to come in. And it's in the middle of Walmart. So it's pretty much always, it was always busy. Pretty much, it was always busy. So I get there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. So, you sitting there waiting, I'm gonna be on my phone. When I tell y'all, I was there for at least an hour and a half, between an hour and a half to 2 hours, I was sitting there waiting for this guy to interview me, right? And honestly, looking back at it now, I should have just been like, you know what? I'll wait. The first impression that he gave me, it wasn't a good one. Cause he come up to me, the first thing that he says to me, he's just like, he pretty much, to sum everything up, he was just like,
I'm really strict on phones. You shouldn't be messing with your phone during an interview.
I don't play about phones and this and that. You already coming off the wrong way because for one, you told me to be here at such and such time. I was here at such and such time. You seen me come in, you seen me check in. You sitting here, I understand that it's busy, I understand that. But you sitting over here, you talking to people, you're taking up time that you could have been interviewing me. Okay? So, all right, so get the interview, get the interview when he's just like, okay, come in. He was just like, I think I had to fill out some papers or something like that day. He was like, do you have a pen? I was like, no. He was like, well, you need to bring a pen to it. You need to bring a pen to an interview. But like his attitude was just so hostile. He was just like,
well, that's something you need to bring to an interview.
Which it was a good tip now that I'm older, but it's just like, you're hostile for what? You the one had me waiting. I didn't have you waiting, sir. But anyway, so I really feel like that same day I had to fill out some papers. I do remember him asking me that. But anyway, so he was like, okay, come in. I remember him telling me to come in on a Friday. He was like, wear all black and we'll start training you. And I'm like, okay. I come in that particular Friday. I come in, I walk in and, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so where am I gonna, trying to figure out, okay, so what's going on, what I'm gonna be doing. One of the other managers that was there, I need y'all to remember this lady, because this lady, what we gonna call her? Because I ain't even gave the other manager no name. We just gonna call her D. The other manager, this particular manager, because she was so rude. Her name is D. And then the manager that interviewed me, the hostel manager, his name is R. Okay, remember that. So I talked to D, and she was just like, she ended up calling the GM. And so apparently he forgets that he's supposed to be training me. That was like, okay, so come in the following Friday. Okay, so I done drove all the way up here for no reason in the heat. Got on all black and it's hot. And I gotta come back again the following Friday. Mind you, one of my friends, she ended up working there for like a week and then she quit. She was like, nah, girl, they too unorganized. I'm not finna do it. I'm just not doing it. So, yeah, keep that in mind too. So, I come the following Friday. That's when I officially start training. Now, it was this one other girl. I ended up training with her. She was so sweet. Me and her, we was like besties or whatever. We pretty much just stuck together because they wasn't just giving us a hard time. They was pretty much giving everybody that worked there a hard time. Now, there was these two other managers. They were really nice. They were really, really sweet. One of them I loved working with him. Everybody liked working with him. The other lady, there was another lady, we're going to call her A. There was another lady, I liked working with her too, but she actually ended up leaving maybe like 2 to 3 weeks after I started working there. Please keep that in mind too, y'all. Keep that in mind because it gets deeper than that. So anyway, so I go to my training and everything, and I speak to the GM and everything. He tells me where I'm going to be starting at. So I think what he told me to do was go in the kitchen and ask for like a hairnet or something like that. And then the lady D, the other manager, the rude manager, I walked in there and I was like, hey, R told me to do this. She because matter of fact, okay, so I walked in, she was like, go.
She was like, go to the front and help her.
And I was like, R told me to do this. She said, no.
I said, go to the front and help her.
I'm like, okay. So this is when I go to the front, and this is the other girl that I told you that was really, really, really sweet. So me and her up there, she's teaching me how to like use the cash register and stuff. But the thing is, they just threw me out in the ocean, and they not really trying to teach me how to swim. They just kind of expecting me to know how to do X, Y, Z. Mind you, this was my second job. My very first job was Waffle House. Waffle House is a restaurant, but it's not. Waffle House isn't fast food. Waffle House is a restaurant. That was my first time working in a fast food restaurant. So a lot of this was new to me. I personally didn't even realize how fast paced it would be at the time either. So we up there, we trying our best, y'all. When I say the line, okay, this is the cashier line. This is the area that you walk in from Walmart into Burger King. And mind you, where the Burger King was, it was directly by the entrance. Directly by the entrance. This was the entrance. This was the doorway to get into Burger King. And this is like this is the cashier line. When I say the line was all the way out by the entrance, I'm already overwhelmed on my first day. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm getting frustrated because I'm being yelled at. I'm being screamed at for stuff that I wasn't officially trained to do. I was just kind of thrown out there on how to do this and how to do that. And fast forward later on, the GMR, he gets an attitude because he was like, oh
my gosh, I should have never brought people in. He was like, oh my gosh, I should have never brought people in on a Friday, pretty much saying on the busiest day of the week.
In the back of my head, I'm like, okay, well, that's your fault. on top of the fact that you've been working for Burger King all these years, he actually knew some of my family as well. He knew some of my family. You've been working for Burger King for all these years. And because I found this out through my uncle. And it took you all this time. Like it wasn't rocket science to you that Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are always the busiest days at any restaurant. That's not rocket science to you, sir. Anyway, we're gonna fast forward. So I still believe that this was my first day. It was either my first or my second day. I still feel like it was my first day. So he sat down, you know, you got to fill out, you know, your I-9, W-2 forms and stuff like that. I started crying because I'm trying my best. That's all I can do is try my best. I started crying because I was getting frustrated because it's like everybody, both him and the other manager, they're like nagging at me. And to make it even worse, they would tag team. Y'all know some jobs you've had, or some jobs you have managers that will tag team. They will tag team against you and they'll tag team against another person. His excuse was,
he was like, you know, you can tell that, you know, I'm all about business. I'm definitely all about business. And he was like, yeah, I just, you know, please don't take it personal. And for me, I just keep thinking that, you know, I keep thinking that you've been working here for a while. And, you know, it's just, you know, it just gets to be a lot and everything.
And I'm just like, any excuse is just better than none at this point. So I keep working there. I think I worked there for a total, I want to say maybe like 3 months or whatever. So I'm like, okay, let me just go. Let me just try it again. Let me just try it again, because it never hurts to try again. So I tried. I kept trying and I kept trying. And I'm just like, okay, you know, let me try and, you know, just take a step back. And on top of the fact that at the time I was a teenager, you know, I was a teenager. I was going through the teenage phase. I'm just like, okay, let me just take a deep breath. You know what I'm saying? We're going to try this again. But it was the same thing again. It was the same exact thing again. And okay, so fast forward, y'all remember that I told y'all that one of my favorite managers that worked there, one of the ladies that worked there, she ended up quitting like 2 to 3 weeks after I started. So fast forward, I remember it was one shift that I worked with the other manager. Okay, the other manager that I told y'all that was really nice, I'm gonna call him N. His name is N. So I was working with N, one of my schoolmates, and another one of my classmates, and then it was a few other people on the shift. And so it was working that night, and I remember the girl that helped me get the job, I remember her saying, oh, she came in here the other day. She was talking about A. She was like, A came in here the other day. She was mad. She was pissed off because somebody stole something out her purse. Somebody stole money out her purse, or merchandise or whatever it was out her purse or whatever. But I believe it was money. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now me, I didn't say nothing. You know, I was just listening out for what was going on. But keep that in mind, y'all. Please keep that in mind. So it was a few other people that I worked with, and I pretty much came to find out that I wasn't the only one that was being screamed at, that was being yelled at. I literally have seen people, that was doing their job, like almost perfecting their job, and he's still yelling at them. Even the other route manager, what did I say her name was? Even the other route manager, D, she's yelling at people, she raising her voice at people and stuff like that. And I remember one day I texted one of my coworkers. I'm like, because I forgot to look at the schedule. I really should have called up there, but I texted one of my coworkers and I was like, hey, what time am I supposed to come in tomorrow? He was just like, oh, you're off tomorrow. So I thought that I was off work. And to be honest, I don't even remember if I did call up there. But anyway, regardless, I texted one of my coworkers, and I was actually supposed to work that particular day. But I ended up, I think the day after that or whatever, I ended up coming to work because I was all confused or whatever. I'm like, because one of the other managers texted me. He was like, hey, R wants you to call him. And I called him. Thankfully, he didn't answer the phone. And he texted me and let me know what was going on. And I'm like, I thought that I was off work today. And he was just like, I thought I was off. And then he was just like, no, it's been on the schedule for X amount of, it's been on the schedule for X amount of time that I've made the schedule. You were on the schedule. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thankfully, we were texting because I don't know if I mentioned when I called him, he did not answer the phone. He was also the type of manager, him and D, both of them, they were the type of managers, they will ask you to do something. You'll start doing it. They'll be like, okay,
Come over here and do this. Come over here and do that. Okay, move over here and do this and do that.
And I understand, you know, in all work settings, you have to learn how to multitask. But it's like you're so aggressive with it. But he would do that to me, and he would do that to just about everybody as well. So fast forward. When it hits the beginning of this June of just about every year, my grandma, she has a family cookout, family gathering and everything in her house, right? So my grandma was telling me, she was like, hey, make sure you tell your supervisor that you need X amount of days off of work for the cookout or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So fast forward in, I let him know, I'm like, hey, I have a family event and everything coming up. So I need such and such day off of work, right? Such and such days off of work. And I was just like, do you need me to write it down and give it to you? He was like,
Oh, no, I'll remember it.
I was trying to convince him, will you please let me write these days down? Because I know how he was. Like, I feel like with the type of attitude he had, I really felt like I needed to push that. Okay, cool, you got it good. So those days, that particular day comes, right? That particular day comes. I remember I got a call earlier that morning. I got a call from my job, but I didn't answer the phone because in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know why they calling me. I'm not coming in today. Like, I'm off work today. Excuse me. So I called back a few hours later. He's like,
Hey, so do you plan on working your own schedule, or do you plan on working the schedule that I provide, or the schedule that I make?
I'm so confused at this point because I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm off of work. I told you I needed these particular days off of work. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You said, what are you talking about? Like, I have the little family event and everything going today. And he was just like,
Okay, so what's your availability?
and I'm like, what do you mean what's my availability? I gave you my availability when I started working the job. You know that, well, it's summertime at this point. And I'm like, what do you mean what my availability is? You know that I'm in school. So if I'm in school and it's June at this point, we all out of school at this point. So I tell him my availability or whatever. And then I continue to tell him my availability. He was like, oh,
So you making your own schedule now?
I'm like, what is your problem, sir? Really? Wait, you just wake up? Do you just wake up mad? You just wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Like, what is your problem? So anyway, at this point, y'all, I'm so irritated because I'm doing everything that I can. I'm trying the best that I can, and you making it hard for me. So I start going off on him. I'm like, okay,
Okay, you know what? I said, you know what? If you gonna keep talking to me like this, I can go find me another job.
and he was just like, you know what, you sure can. So then I hung up the phone. Now, then I go job hunting again. But once again, being a teenager, it's almost impossible to find a job. I'm applying left and right and left and right and left and right and left and right. But mind you, I'm a teenager at the time. I barely have any bills to pay. I barely have any bills to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So wasn't that big, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't that big of a stretch. So I ended up, my grandma, she was like, you might want to go back up there, you know, to see, you might want to go back up there to see if you can get your job back, you know, just to see, you know, it never hurts to try. So I ended up going back up there and I talked to the GM again. And his excuse again, he let me get the job back. But see, his excuse this time was,
I'm sorry, I just been so frustrated because it's just been so many people that have been working here and they're telling me when they coming to work, when they not coming to work. They just pretty much doing their own thing. And, I was just so frustrated.
so you took it out on me, the fact that you forgot. What really happened was you got mad at me because you forgot that you told me that you were going to let me have these days off. And apparently on your time, you ended up scheduling me on a time that I was supposed to be off. And your excuse was because you were frustrated at everybody else. That was your excuse. Anyway, so I start back working and I'm like, okay, you know what? This go round might just be a little bit better. I got a second chance. It really might be just a little bit better. it was the same thing. One day, me and one of my other coworkers, he's just mouthing, he's just running off at the mouth, talking and talking and talking and talking. And I get irritated once again. I start talking back, kind of mumbling under my breath. Then I kind of walk to the back of the store. He was like, okay. He was like, why you
just walking away? He was like, why you walking away while I'm talking to you? He was just like, he was like, you gotta stop with that attitude. You gotta stop with that attitude and
stuff like that. Y'all, oh my gosh, when I tell y'all I would be at the cash register trying to take people's orders, on top of the fact that I'm dealing with really rude people. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with those type of customers along with dealing with these managers. When I tell y'all I would be at the cash register, I'm sitting there like I would have tears in my eyes. So many days I would just have tears in my eyes because it's just like I couldn't do nothing right for doing something wrong. And it's like, I know that I'm not perfect. And at the time, I was a teenager. You know what I'm saying? I was a teenager. I'm still learning the swing of things. And I'm still, learning things and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? I can't do this. I cannot keep doing this. I can't do this no more. So there was a Burger King that was actually right down the road from my house. I had applied to that Burger King before, but they didn't accept me, right? This particular Burger King was, I want to say, about 25 minutes from my house. So what I did, I was like, okay, so since I work at Burger King, I just go talk to the manager over there and just tell them that I want to transfer. So it was a few days, later on in the summertime, I actually went to that Burger King to get a milkshake or whatever. I went there and I spoke to the GM that was there. I spoke to the GM that was there. He ended up making me the milkshake and everything. I was just like, hey, who's the hiring manager? And he was like, it was me. And I was like, hey, so I work at the Burger King, and I worked at the Burger King at so-and-so. I was just trying to see if y'all are hiring because I'm looking to transfer. I was like, I don't know if you know R. He was like, yeah, I know R. He actually used to work here. And I'm like, oh, he was like, oh yeah, we hiring all day, every day. So I got all my transfer stuff together. The GM there, I did my little interview, my onboarding. He hired me, told him I was in school and everything. And I got my stuff transferred over. I didn't tell the GM until like my very last day. I was like, oh, this is my last day. And then she was like, does he know? I was like, no. She was like, okay, well, you need to call and tell him. So I called him, told him, let him know. And so I go back, so I got in my stuff, everything transferred. Y'all, I go back up there to pick up my last check. I also forgot to mention, just this job didn't have direct deposit. They only had checks. So I go back up there to pick up my last check. This man gonna sit up here and tell me, he pretty much was saying that he technically wasn't supposed to give me my last check until I brought the uniform back. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, no, because that's withholding. That's no excuse to hold nobody's money. That's withholding. Keep that in mind too, y'all. Please keep that in mind. So, and when I walked in, like directly, okay, so this is the Burger King, and I remember I told y'all this is the entrance. So obviously when you walk in, there are windows right here. You can see diagonally to the Burger King. As soon as I walked in, as soon as I stepped through, both of them, R&D, they turn around and they look at me, and then I gotta look away. I glance at them for like 2 seconds, then I gotta look away to keep everything from being so awkward. They're literally staring at me. Like, and I'm like, I'm being stared at for what? I don't even work here anymore. But you remember I told y'all about the manager that stopped working there a few weeks after I did, and the situation I just told y'all about with my check. I come to find out months later, this guy, he ends up getting fired from Burger King. He can't work at any more Burger King. As far as I know, he can't work at any more Burger Kings anymore because he was the one stealing money. And it was a few times that I worked and my cash register drawer ended up being short. I'm like, well, why is my drawer short? Like, I'm giving out the right amount of change, because y'all know that the screen tells you, if somebody gives you cash, the screen tells you the change that you're supposed to give them back. So I'm giving back the right amount of change. So come to find out, he's the one stealing money. He's stealing from the store. So I'm like, so that's one reason he was giving everybody a hard time, because he was trying to cover himself. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But the manager, D, she was still working there for a while. And the other manager, he was there for a while too. But yeah, that was my crazy story time. One of the craziest story times of my worst job ever. And I got more story. I have another story time of a few months after I transferred to the other Burger King. So y'all, please stay tuned for that, because it gets even more interesting. I'm telling you. But anyway, I'ma head out. Thank y'all so much for tuning back into this video, and thank y'all so much for tuning back into my channel. And make sure you like, and make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.